Well, good morning. So today's vlog is going to be slightly different, and I'm actually going to split it up into two. So today, as you'll see from the drive over, it's a little bit murky, a little bit misty, and we are due some heavy rain in the next couple of hours. But just out for a little bit of an explore around a couple of locations that I've never been before. And I think I've said this before, this is an important part of photography, that you don't just go to a location once and expect to come away with an image that you're happy with. In fact, one of the most enjoyable aspects of photography for me is actually visiting a location with no intention of actually shooting anything, just more from a recon mission. So that's exactly what today is going to be. We're heading over sort of to the east coast and a couple of places that we want to kind of check out. For now though, we've just stopped off in a little forest, just so we can enjoy the best sausage roll, well, the second best sausage roll known to man. My sausage rolls are the best. Right, I'm gonna eat this, and if I don't have a heart attack, we'll catch up in a bit. So we were just driving to the spot that I kind of had envisaged for us, and again, this is one of the reasons why exploration is such an important thing. So I was just kind of driving along, and out of the corner of my eye, as is quite often the case at this time of year, I just saw a little flash of colour. Let me show you. So just here, and in fact, now I'm kind of standing on the side of the road, so not an exotic sort of position, and certainly not one that you would typically think, but this is where kind of pre-visualization comes into play, and sort of thinking about light, where the light's going to fall, how about a little bit of misty conditions. And what I really like about this is, look at this little sort of curved line. So if I was to move myself maybe a little bit along to the left, that might actually become quite a nice little line leading in. I'm also thinking if it was a tad mistier, you know, those trees in the background might be just a little bit more diffused. So, but just how this tree here is just starting to take on some beautiful colour. So right now, it doesn't really look like much, but one of the most important jobs of a photographer when they're sort of scouting for locations is visualising what the scene is going to look like and in what conditions it's going to look best. But this just looks really, really nice. And as you can hear from coming behind me, I'm standing on the side of the road. So yeah, not what you would typically think of a exotic landscape location. So here we are, up in a little forest that I have been meaning to visit for quite some time. Now, as I said earlier, there is absolutely no chance of an image today. As you can see, it's rather dark and dank. We're at a reasonable altitude as well, so we've actually gone into the mist, into the clouds. So, but this is what photographers spend a lot of their time doing, just looking for potential compositions, looking for potential images. And it can be really difficult to see an image on a day like today because there's no light, there's no atmosphere. It's still quite green. A couple of the trees are maybe just starting to turn. But this is where you're sort of banking some, you know, future shots. And of course, this is where I'd really love to see a little bit more autumn colour, a little bit of mist, and of course we would need to see some light coming through the canopy. Let me just show you one particular potential that has me sort of thinking about the future. 2 minutes. So just here, maybe it's just the case that we have this path kind of leading through just caught my eye. But just as we kind of walk through, get rid of those trees on one side, again I'm kind of thinking now, there's a couple of things that have kind of struck me here. Number one, because these trees here, this little part is a little bit out in the open, it's going to take on any kind of light that is actually coming through. So that's the first thing. Secondly, looking to see there's some, you can see if I just zoom in a little bit, you can see that there's a little bit of colour change, not a huge amount, but when that really starts to change. The other thing that kind of struck me as I walked through here, just this little moss covered rock right there as well. So lots of little features that potentially add up to an image. But that's kind of what you're doing. The camera's staying in the bag. I'm just looking around and I'm trying to think for a future date what would actually make for a particularly nice image. And who doesn't love bimbling around ancient woodland? Beautiful. So just a little general tip when shooting in woodland, don't get me wrong, getting into some of the crevices of the woodland can be where it's really gnarly, can be really nice, but always good to look at the edges, because of course that's where the light is kind of going to permeate, yeah, we'll go with that. You can see the waterproofs are on. As I said, it wasn't going to be in any way, shape or form a day for photography. It's definitely a day for exploring, and this little wood is phenomenal. But yeah, edges of the woodland, or as you walk through the woodland, you'll come to little clearings. And of course, where there's clearings, the ferns and stuff can start to take hold. You might have some old dead trees and trees that are kind of, oddly shaped. These can all make for some really nice compositions. Beautiful. Right, let's keep walking. The rain has eased, and there is actually just a little bit of light coming through. Nothing spectacular, but it's enough for me to get my little always with me camera out. This is the Fujifilm X100C. Stunning little camera. 23mm lens, 35mm in old money. So still just exploring this little woodland. The path I've kind of taken this morning is a little bit of a linear path, so we're now walking back the way I kind of came. And what this allows, walking in a linear path, what it allows you to do is see the forest flipped back to front, opposite. And of course scenes that you may not have seen on the way out, you now see on the way back. It's also another reason why it's important that when you are looking at compositions that you're always looking behind you. So this little sort of scene here is something that I missed on the way up, but I know I can see on the way down. Let me show you. So again, I've got no real idea whether there's going to be anything that kind of comes of this, but I just love, just beautiful looking. And the fact that this old twisted tree is all covered in the moss as well. Just beautiful. So as I say, oodles of potential. I look forward to coming back here many times. In fact, discovering little pockets like this is almost as exciting as taking an image itself. This is a huge part of my enjoyment of photography, and it should be yours as well. Just beautiful. So different day, same idea. A little bit of a bimble, a little bit of a woodland bimble. I've actually been in this wood many times before. I'll stick a link up there to one before. So This is a little woodland that actually runs alongside a river, and I just thought I'd come along and have another little bit of a gander. As can be quite often the case. I was actually thinking about this on the way over. You know, when I first got into photography, I was convinced that the only time that you went out with your camera or went out to do anything photographic related was when the light was great. All those wasted opportunities of recce missions. So yeah, back in the woodland, back thinking to myself about pre-visualization, and back out actually with the little X100C. So yeah, what's interesting is a lot of the leaves in some parts of some of the little woodlands I've been to today are already kind of being blown off the trees already. So, and we are due for, now things are still very green, but it's a little bit concerning that there's already so many leaves on the trees. Oh, a couple of little blue tits around. Lovely. Right, time to go for a bit of a wander. So, a lot of the leaves in this forest, a lot of the trees in this forest seem to be affected by what looks like a disease. I'm no expert, I'm not sure what kind of disease it would be, but the leaves all look pretty gnarly. Which doesn't really bode well for later in the season. What I love about this little path along by the river is on the opposite side of the river there is potential, especially an early autumnal winter morning, bit of mist coming off the river. So really looking, as well as looking in the forest here, continuing to look across the river. The sun, again from a pre-visualization point of view, I'm thinking weather-wise, and the sun kind of rises to my left, kind of straight ahead of me as I'm walking now, and kind of illuminates down this bank. So it's kind of what's going through my head as well. Just chatting with the chap, and he was talking about seeing otters recently as well, so that'd be pretty cool to see. But yeah, not much in here at the moment. There was one little scene back there with a little sort of moss covered trunk of a tree, but anyway, still nice to be out and about. So again, I don't know, but the idea being that the ferns maybe take on a coppery look later in the season, and then we've got these two big old Brits in the background. Now I'm shooting with a 35mm equivalent, and I'm trying 3x2 and 1x1 formats. So there might be something there, not quite sure. I just like as well how the background kind of, you know, using a larger aperture, maybe blow some of that out and just maybe have a bit of a contrast between coppery tones in the ferns and in the green moss on the trees. So potential, maybe. Or maybe I'm just barking up the wrong tree. Oh, that's terrible. So that's me back in the car. As is quite often the case, the rain has just started. So it was useful to go to that woodland, even just to rule it out, or mostly rule it out from an autumnal perspective. Now, there were a couple of potential scenes. I think there's maybe more potential in that wood post-autumn when all the leaves are off the trees. There just seems to be a little bit too much of that disease kind of going on. Now, the other issue was some of the best scenes across the way, looking across the river, you just couldn't get to because it's just so grown up. But there is the potential for some scenes looking out across the way. But useful in itself just to say, this isn't a place that I maybe will come back to with much haste during autumn, but still a useful exercise. So I think I'm going to call today's little bimble quits. May get out again tomorrow morning for another little bimble. We'll see.